You said something that was so profound. It's interesting. Since this is not streaming, apparently, I feel like I can share this. I was in 7th grade when my brother was assaulted, and it destroyed our family completely, to the point where my brother and I no longer grew up together. He had to go live with my father, and I had to live on my own. And to know how it felt, to feel helpless, not being able to help my family, and seeing how it impacted my younger brother, how it destroyed my mother, and to see how even to this day, the ramifications of that, it becomes generational, because what happens can't be undone, and then his kids see it, and it just continues this path. And if we don't start talking about these issues that are here, and they're so common, if we don't have these conversations, we can't fix the problem. So thank you for having that conversation.
Yeah, and I can see why most people tend to avoid that conversation or even advocating, because it is I consider, it to be an absolute evil. Who would ever want to do that to a kid? And so I think on it often, but all I can do is sort of share with people what I believe and what I do, and how I strategize in ways for bigger impact.
So what are some of your strategies for bigger impact?
Well, just as I said, I definitely believe anybody that's on a consistent, income, commit to a nonprofit, put your money where your mouth is, and don't just volunteer. You can volunteer, but give money. They need money to run these organizations.
It's true.
Yeah, it's sure. But again, volunteering is great, but I think that, imagine if you get 20 donors that all donate $25 a month. That goes really far for impacting, the people that they're helping. And there's a lot of really wonderful, nonprofits out there. And I feel that, get to the point where you're asking the hard questions to understand, that unfortunately some organizations, they're using the money to do a lot of lunches. They're doing a lot of coffees. They're doing some things that I don't think are the best uses of the nonprofits and I'm a little critical on that, and I think I have a right to be. And so ask those hard questions of, what are your goals this year? And keep the questions focused and fewer, and there's no need to bog down the team, by burdening them to figure out what's going on inside the organization, but ask enough, and and use their time just enough to understand, and then do an annual check-in or do a 6-month check-in. And I think even just arranging a 15-minute, don't take up an hour of their time. They're busy.
Right.
They're busy helping kids, but do check in at least biannually. Go in and at least swing by the organization to see how exactly are they helping kids. What's your guys' focus? What are you seeing? What are you seeing as far as the biggest needs? For Emerson Street, which is a part of Mental Health Center for Denver, the one center that they have that helps teens, I met with them like by phone maybe about 3 weeks ago, and that's the organization that I do monthly with, auto deposits to them. And, I'd ask them, especially now in COVID, where are the biggest needs? Like, what do you guys need money for? At one point, they needed money for Lyfts and Ubers, because these kids would go to the center and they didn't have an adult to drive them back wherever it is that they could go, and so they said to me, well, we really need money to pay for these Lyfts and these Ubers, because we don't want the kids taking public transportation home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
will tell you this, something that most people don't realize. Things are so different in the world. When I was kicked out, I had my car, but I didn't have a cell phone, right? But at least I had my car, so I could transport myself and I had a place to sleep. Now these kids don't have that, but they'll have cell phones. Oh
yeah.
my God. They will have multiple cell phones and they will show up and they actually like brag about the phone. It's hysterical. And they're always on them anyway. So they need extra because they die. It's ridiculous, but they can't get anywhere. Right. So I've been trying to get in touch with Lyft to see if they would, if they would sponsor any of our,
Oh, that's a great.
yeah,
That's a great idea.
thank you. If you have any ideas how to get a hold of them, I've been working on it, but I'm getting dead ends. We'll figure it out. Hey, Lyft, I'm going to tag you in this. Go ahead and give me a call, 757.
But you didn't continue. What's the rest of your number?
478-6067.
That's right. Yeah. So we all need to vibe on that one because it's possible. I mean, you can definitely get that sponsorship. It's just a matter of the right timing and the right person. And you know, I think it's important for companies like that if we find that they're a resource for helping, you know, it'd be wonderful to have them involved. So that's the other part. Not only as individually should we have nonprofits that we adopt and we put our money where our mouths are. I think every company should adopt a policy in which that they either, you know, maybe it's broken up by teams, like the engineering team decides to help X, Y, and Z, you know, and then the sales team, you know, adopts this nonprofit. I definitely think from a corporate and business standpoint, they should have a philanthropic mission and an idea of how they're going to give back to the community.
So I like that. Have you on that idea, Andy? What is it that you do professionally, and then how did you find yourself in the nonprofit world and balancing between the two? Many of us are trying to balance that as well.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I offer my help volunteer wise. I used to do a lot more years ago. Now it's mostly that I give money. But so what I do is I'm in sales in software. I work at Burst IQ, headquartered in Denver. And, you know, I have a long history with universities, but my background is I had my own business and I was a professional photographer. So what I would do for, what I used to do with volunteering my time is I would use my expertise. And I still kind of do in terms of like Emerson Street for the kids. I tell them, hey, anytime you guys want to host something about, you know, your career path and how to utilize things like LinkedIn or other platforms in order to help these kids think about their careers, I will definitely talk to them. So that's another strategy is use your expertise. If you're going to be volunteering, what is it that you know, things that you're an expert in that you can share?
And in this community, where again, we're all entrepreneurs, but one of the things that really brought us together was not only are we passionate about building businesses, but also giving back, but also we have personal stories and personal strifes and challenges and obstacles that we overcame. And just emotionally, we just jived with each other and just found a family within each other, which gave us a sense of purpose, which gave us, okay, this is why we're building businesses, in order to help another person. So, Angie, I know a little bit about your personal story and your background. I wanted to see if you feel comfortable, share a little bit about what happened in your past and how you became the person, entrepreneur, and philanthropist you are today.
Yeah, I'm an open book. And as many of you know, when we talk about our past, it's almost as if like this other person, you know, but it is a part of our past and we see it, it's sort of over here. And we refer to it, but we're not stuck in it, right? And so my past story is, I tell people, my mother is Thai, right? Which is generations of Buddhist monks who married an Appalachian redneck who had generations of Baptist preachers. And so it's kind of funny to use as a reference, but the movie Deliverance, like that small mountain town type of, that definitely was an aspect of my reality growing up. I definitely know, parts of West Virginia that are extremely rural. My
Uh-huh.
grandfather was a Baptist preacher in those small towns.
Uh-huh.
Um, and people always ask me, "Did you see snakes?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. But that doesn't mean they weren't around." I definitely watched, river baptisms. And
Yeah.
my dad met my mom because he was in the Vietnam War.
Hmm.
I'm a product of that. And, growing up, knowing that my mom was facing challenges of being probably the only Asian person for miles where we were.
Hmm.
I grew up with people making fun of her accent, just kind of um, mocking her or pretending to talk in an Asian language when they don't. And that definitely was hard, because I'm in between, and I'm listening to the kids do it, but then this is my mom. So you want to be one of the cool kids.
Yeah.
So you just kind of suck it up. And even though you don't really want to suck it up. But what happened when I was a kid, I think the closest thing to what you guys offer, these safe havens, is that my dad, who I absolutely love, I grew up watching very violent situations. And it definitely impacts my sister immensely. Not that it doesn't impact me, but I think she had a harder time forgiving my dad. But we would watch him, beat our dogs. I mean, it
Oh,
was just awful. And then the thing is we ended up in a women's shelter, and I can speak firsthand that without these resources for people to go to, there's nowhere else. I mean, we would have been on the streets. There was no other place for us to go. So luckily, and again, this is the beauty of the volunteer aspect. We were in a small college town, but we were escorted there by the police late at night. And, when I think about these people who volunteered there and watched over me and my sister while my mom had to handle legal things, or just setting up our apartment and whatnot, those safe havens that you guys are creating is the difference for people basically getting a new start.
Amen to that, Jacob.
Amen to that.
Earl, you and I need to get together and have a cocktail. Yes, we'll each bring a bottle of wine and we'll see who can finish it. I totally get it. What
Yeah.
you just said is so true, because I was actually raised to be a pastor. My family also, I was raised Pentecostal in Virginia, and my family was biracial. My stepfather took us in when I was very young, so there was a lot of discrimination. So I understand a lot of what you're going, and it's true. If you don't have a community, you don't have anybody to relate to, and then you feel always out of place, and you feel like your safety is always threatened. And I say that from my perspective, which was so much tamer than what I'm sure you guys went through. How old were you when your mom finally was able to liberate
Third
herself?
grade. I was in third grade, so I think I was somewhere around 8 or 9, and I'm the oldest. My sister's like 15. She's just 15 months younger than me. The Irish twin thing.
My brother's 15 months younger than me. Girl, who are you? Hush, you. Oh, sorry. Dogs.
Mine usually start barking when they hear other dogs on Zoom. But so regardless of having that background or not, everybody cares about something. Everybody cares about again, pick what it is that you care about. We collectively care about kids. And as we look at how can we really help kids, it led us to this path of the ones who are displaced. Oops, he's on mute.
I'm sorry. I've got dogs and kids here, so it's like I've got to hover around the mute button every time I'm like, why are you awake? It's 3 o'clock. Go to sleep. Although they're like 18 to 25, so they're always not the point. So so kids were your passion because you saw the impact it had on you, right? So you're trying to help that. And by the way, I love that organization in Denver. I actually was trying to meet with them when I was there 2 months ago. I didn't have the time, but I would love to get to know them and see how we can support them. So if someone wants to, how would someone, let's say that, guys, 1 second. Let's say someone suspects child abuse.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know how to approach it. They don't know how to ask the kid or the parents. They suspect something is going on.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tips you have so that we can address them? And how do you approach such a sensitive topic to a scared child?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the schools are the big help. And the one thing that I definitely recognize is I am no expert, no professional. I'm just a person that wants to help. So it seems to me where I've seen where people can identify, it definitely is the place where children are. And that's why during COVID, they said that there's a heightened, and I think this is across the board, all types of abuse, actual, domestic abuse, physical harm to kids, not only sexual, it's higher because they're at home and they're not at school as much.
I can see.
And but it's the school systems that are really big in terms of identifying it. And the sexual abuse thing is that is not a social economic, like there's not just one area. I mean, it happens in the areas of more money as well. And I've heard plenty of stories of that. And so it seems to me that perhaps educational programs that work more with schools to help the teachers identify, because they're the ones that see the kids.
Do you remember it's funny you mentioned that the it doesn't matter how much money you have. Do you remember I think they were the Menendez brothers in the 90s in California?
Yeah, I never heard
their parents were very wealthy. It was a huge case because their parents were very, very wealthy and very, very abusive. The father was sexually abusing their two sons their entire life, but not just sexually, but they would like put thumbtacks in their legs and just, it was a power play. And the mother was a drunk and would turn the other way and wouldn't stop it. And then the two boys grew up and tired of it and ended up murdering their parents. So it's like, who do you blame here? Like, how do you do this? These young children, and they kept asking for help and no one would help. So they were convicted, but it's such a sad story, but it can happen at any level. It's terrifying.
Yeah, so again, that website, the Polaris Project, they have this myths page, and I found that extremely insightful. I never knew that landscaping was an area where people are trafficked. I mean, it could be your own landscaping, person that brings in a crew, and you have no idea that they actually had slaves that were working for them. So, educating people on, I would say when it comes to the kids, programs that work with teachers, and it has to be manageable, and it has to be something that is effective, because people are very limited on time. Everybody wants to help. And that's where I love technology. I mean, look at health tech. If you look up Thorn, basically it's a software. And I am a big believer in technology being used for a lot of these things to resolve these problems, either a technology that the kids can, like you said, they all have phones, right? And how maybe they can get access. And you find the kids on Snapchat and Instagram, right? And so if these, what I refer to as, and usually it's health and wellness companies, like Thorn, that basically try and be an area where people can report what they see, but then also be a resource for the victims.
Yeah.
So when it comes to working with the teachers and identifying, it's show up where they are. You have to be convenient for them in order to gain the information. And then it has to be, how many times have any of us thought, man, I really need to contact my friend. And then like weeks go by and finally you get to text them or you finally get to email them. So you have to kind of show up in the places that they are in order for them to quickly report. And that's again on the companies to have a very user friendly experience. It's like the Facebook method. It's like you just hop on, no one has a tutorial or a video of how to use it. You just use it.
So Angie, you were earlier, you were saying you believe, and I believe also, that many companies and many corporations should be incorporating social responsibility into their mission. And I think it's super important. From your experience, how would one employee go about promoting it or even starting a program? I know from my experience, when I was working in one tech company, I had to make sure that the nonprofits that I was promoting was somewhat aligned with the company's mission statement. And we were really niche. We were working with tech and the hospitality industry. So it was really hard to find a nonprofit that was similarly aligned. I just couldn't choose a nonprofit that really spoke to me. I had to speak to the company. So from your experience, do you have any background when it comes to developing corporate social responsibility programs or anything?
It seems to me, and my husband's actually over here working. He's an expert in like HR, and that would be where I would say an employee should start with. Now, of course, there's talking about it and doing. You got to set a timeline. If there's someone out there is like, yeah, I want to implement this inside my company, put some hard deadlines around this. Okay. And then either, again, I think maybe a larger company that has different departments, start dividing it up, do it by the teams, and then it builds team morale. What does the sales team want to do? What does the engineering team want to do? And then what does the whole company want to do? But you gotta box some timelines around it, or it just ends up being talk. So that would be one aspect. You can start with HR, but hoping that it gets into execution.
Mm-hmm. And you personally listed a lot of the organizations. I mean, your resume is pretty long with all of the organizations that you have ever participated with. And what are some other ones? What are some other ones that you've been a part of in your entire journey?
Oh, again, with the focus on kids, there's the Children's Museum in Colorado, an amazing organization. Then I kind of moved on. There was one called the Bridge Project, which is based out of DU, and they had homes based around disadvantaged locations in Denver, and they had professionals who would go there every week, and they would mentor kids, and it was basically like a clubhouse for kids to go to. It was really awesome. So I did a photography campaign for the Bridge Project, and it was really cool. The people that worked with that Denver Center, I think it's DCAC, Denver Center for Advocacy for Children, and that specifically is one that targets cracking, sexual abuse in particular. So some of the programs that they have is donate your stuffed animals to them. And what they do is sometimes these kids, they end up, at the police station with nothing, like their parent or them, or they've been, basically pulled out of their home. And so having a box of stuffed animals that they can give to the kids when they're there. That was one program that I was involved in, but they're everywhere. There's plenty of them. And then Emerson Street, is the one, again, it's a house, kind of like what you guys do. It's a 4-story home near the capital of Denver. And it is a place that kids can go to, and they do crafts, and they get free sessions with psychiatrists and therapists. And they service kids that are facing mental health problems such as schizophrenia and et cetera. And so they offer their services to kids with mental health issues. But it doesn't have to be that intense in order for a kid to go there and maximize on the programs they have.
And I think
so that's my latest one.
What you also hit home is for anyone who to give back to the community. There really is a million ways. I mean, even though they were offering houses, just giving back to the house. What we're learning also in going through a grant writing process, and we'll be doing that infinite. There's services that have to be included within the house. So anything that is fitness related or financially related or mental health or emotional or support, any type of services, as long as it augments the person, helps that youth get back on his or her feet, it is going to be needed. So basically anybody from any background who has a heart can contribute to these houses and contribute to the services for the youth as well.
Yeah, yeah, and have some consistency in it.
Mm-hmm.
Dedicate, commit to a year. Don't just show up for one or two things. And again, if you do an auto withdrawal, just commit to it. Commit to it to a year. And then follow up with the organizations to see how their needs have shifted.
I think that's also a great idea that you just mentioned, is to follow with the organization also, because oftentimes when I make suggestions to people to make the donation, sometimes they get a little confronted that, I don't have the money, or I don't have the ability to right now. But oftentimes underneath that is that they just don't know where the money's going. They just don't know what's happening.
Yeah, and you can decide, let's say you work at a company. You're like, all right, my sales team and I, we're all going to pick an organization, and all of us are going to give $20 a month. We can do this, so you kind of rally everybody to commit to an auto withdrawal. And we want that money to go to, let's say in the case of Emerson Street, we want all that money to go to the cooking classes and the art classes, because you can specify how you want that money to be used. But to be sensitive to how the organization knows better than me how they're going to impact the kids. And so ask them, where's the biggest need? What are you seeing is making the kids show up? What are they really excited about? And then say, all right, well, then the money that our team is going to auto withdraw for this whole next year, we want it to support that. And then set the date. All right, in 6 months' time, we want to come visit the organization, and we don't want to take up too much of your time. Or we do a 30-minute Zoom. Tell us what's going on and tell us the impact that it's making. And when you hear that impact of what it's doing for those kids, that just makes you feel so
fulfilled.
Like wow, we really are making an impact here. And you just want to keep going.
Any stories, Angie, that really spoke to you after hearing you directly help someone, you directly helped a child?
I would say I don't think I have necessarily one specific story that came out of what I did. It's just more of like maybe a video. They did some really cool videos about kids who were going through the program. And then when you just hear those stories and what happened for them because they had that resource. So it wasn't anything specific that I had done. But there's plenty of, I worked with college kids, and I keep in touch with so many of my former students that it's really nice when some of them come back around and say, you know what, do you remember when you told me this? Like that definitely made the difference in my life. And that definitely is fulfilling for sure.
I know Jacob's kids drive him nuts every day. He knows. But I mean, those kids, they stole our hearts, and we all watch out for them. And they come from backgrounds, and it's that's sex and drugs, and they're all of that and stuff. But it's amazing and I hope those kids, Jacob, I hope they know they have an entire community watching over them, all of us.
They don't realize it. They know, but they don't know. It's very interesting. We're going through this journey from two very different positions, right? And yet we're standing side by side and we're fighting this fight and we're trying to change society, and they see that. They don't see that we're trying to change them. Maybe not change, assist them. And it's but at 18, did you recognize? You know what I mean? There's still so much a kid. Come say hi. No, they come here right now. They're talking about you. Good boy. But don't touch me, but come say hi. I'm not Catholic, but still. Okay, that's wonderful. I'm so glad. I wish I got him to clean all the time this way. You can have guests over all the time if you can clean like this. I mean, we're in Corona. No, you can't. 6 feet apart, social distancing, wear a mask inside, and like wear a shield when you take a shower. Come say hi. This is Marcos, as he goes by now. Hi.
Marcus.
He's one of the kids in our home that we're supporting.
Who are these people? It's James.
But Angie is actually Angie. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
How would you
Wait.
like him to know you?
Oh, I'm just Angie on LinkedIn.
So Angie does a lot of philanthropic work as well, and she's actually in Denver.
Okay.
She does a lot of stuff with our community and people like us as well. She helps kids.
Oh, solid.
So yeah, she's our host right now. Yeah.
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
Hi, Pam.
So Nelson, that was a great question. Why don't you ask him?
So do you know, Marcos, do you know how many people are watching out for you?
No,
Oh, there's
probably
one.
not. I mean, Jacob tells me a lot of people. There's a lot of people on our team, but there's more than that, obviously.
Well, you just added one more. There's Angie. So there's like 101.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us looking out for you and taking care of you. And stop driving Jacob nuts.
Lately, he's actually been you've been kind of
I've
kick-ass lately.
been solid.
Yeah,
I just got another application. I'm gonna try to order the pizza place.
wonderful. We're still haven't
Friday
quite
and
gotten him to
Saturday.
understand that the Amazon store could solve a lot of these financial problems of his, but we're working on it. It's
Step at a time, one day at a time.
We're getting there.
Yes, we are. But hold on, watch this. So Angie, what we do when the kids come into the home, because it's not Maslow's hierarchy, they have to, food and shelter, otherwise you can't do anything else, right? So we have to get them the ability to sustain that. So when COVID hit, we had to change our business model right away because they couldn't go out and find jobs. And so we opened up an Amazon store so that they could sell items on there to make income. Well, that was the theory. Amazon then stopped non-essential services. So we had to keep doing all this other stuff. How many things have you done since you've been in the house?
Like, what do you mean? How many things?
Like how many courses and stuff have I tried to
I
force
did
down your throat?
the social media course. I started the psychology class.
Mhm.
The real estate, stock market.
Stock market survivor.
Just things to keep me busy and out of trouble, really. But also like learning things too.
Have you actually enjoyed it or not?
The social media class I did because it did help my social media, and then I also like looked at critique like other people's kind of thing.
Ah, yeah. The
he's
teacher learns more than the student.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the other day, yesterday actually, we have a rescue that's coming in. We're meeting on Sunday because it's not pressing. But what Bailey, they are looking to do is they want to do this intelligently. So even though Bailey will not be living in the house right away, Bailey can still have an Amazon store that we can teach. So Marcos, when you actually found out that all the work you've been doing could help someone else. It
was nice. Yeah, it was kind of cool to figure out like what we're doing from scratch is like helping someone that just became in a situation that we were before.
How to make you feel?
Like grateful in a way, and kind of just like self-worth was big too because it's kind of like I'm doing something now with my life.
It's good to know.
Very cool.
We got more and more kids and more houses to open. Angie, long-term vision. I mean, we're already working with another nonprofit housing. Gosh, the person that we work with, I mean, she's been orphans, over 900 orphans over like 26 years. Very, very long career. And so we're working with them, also taking them in the investment party. Long-term goals. I know I've been working with Jacob in order to launch the Investment Party Scholarship Fund. So I've committed myself to donating $50,000 every year to help at-risk youth go to school. If I could reach that goal, I know I made. Like that's baller status. I'm excited to do that.
Mhm.
It's so cool that once we as entrepreneurs found that purpose, and we also found each other, and again, a full sense of family, that we just kind of started feeding each other. So many of us have ideas of having a for-profit business as well as a 501c3, or Jacob nowadays, another option is called an L3, right?
LTC.
Yeah.
LTC. Or Benefit Corp. But I really liked what you said, Angie, because I hadn't thought about what Angie said about having different departments sponsor different nonprofits. And that's actually what we're creating, because the model is so transferable. So I liked what you said about have the sales team sponsor one and then have the HR department sponsor another. We don't have an HR department.
We're very not safe for work, Angie. And we curse a lot, and we are constantly drinking.
Yeah.
Jacob won't let us have an HR department for a while because we would all be fired day one.
And when we do, Pamela is our HR director. She's our HR mistress, and that's what it's called. And she has to show up to work probably in something leather with a bustier and a whip, and that's how she gets things done. I mean, this is our organization.
It's exactly how I get things done.
I'm scared to tell her no. I really am.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a great way to build, team camaraderie, because they're deciding on something together and they can feel good about it. And then if some of the departments are too small, you just combine them.
Yeah, why not? Actually, let's ask you guys. Hey, class, what type of right now you're helping Sherlock's Homes, but as we get you guys moving, what type of nonprofit would you guys look forward to supporting?
Oh, Bo got one.
Do you type it?
No.
Special Olympics.
Mhm.
I love you, Carlos. You know my sister has Down syndrome?
Yeah.
Oh, we just talked about that.
Yeah.
I will be helping you with that.
$1,000 for Special Olympics. Oh,
What was
yeah.
that?
I forgot I did that. I raised $1,000 for Special Olympics last month. I forgot
Cool.
that. Oh, sorry, I should have told
Very
you.
cool.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I
Pam
went to the women's shelter. That's awesome. Yes. What about you, Josh? James? Bo?
I know Dusty and I have talked a lot about wanting to help veterans. Something that's close to our heart.
I couldn't hear that. I'm sorry. There's a lot happening over here. What was that?
So Dusty and I have talked a lot about wanting to do something to help veterans, either homeless or disabled vets, because that's something that's pretty close to our heart.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's a big need. Mhm.
and James said assisted living seniors.
Mhm.
And Bo?
Oh, you know me. I'm just going to do everything humanitarian, social, whatever, and clean the environments, all that jazz.
Yeah, so he's pretty much with me, so it's cool. Yeah, and he has to do it in a tank top or less. That's the rule.
We're so wrong. It's not appropriate.
Yeah. And since we're having difficulty streaming right now, it's only going to get worse. So let's see what goes on. We're streaming on YouTube, which I've never done before. We don't have any followers, so who cares? It's like, let's have a good time. But,
we shared about what we want to do. Angie, what do you want to do going forward? What's next for Angie?
how can we support?
Yeah. You're part of the family now, Angie. You're not going anywhere. So what's up?
Yeah, I think taking a closer look at the organizations like Thorn that have a health tech aspect and that have an app that kids can directly access. I haven't taken a closer look of what exactly the app is or what exactly it is that they do, but it's something around data. So I would want to do some research and find the health or like the tech companies that actually directly impact. But partnerships are really great as well, like what you were talking about with Lyft. There was another idea that I'd had, kind of escaped me. Oh, I know what it was. Assisted living. There are some programs out there that are pretty interesting that I think you guys could potentially explore. You'd have to have some pretty tight training, impactful training. But when I was at the university, I had learned about some senior living homes, because the people who they basically buy their condo, and it's usually a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom condo. And there were programs out there that would allow a college kid, a disadvantaged college kid, to live with the senior and fulfill certain duties. Like they were in charge of trash, they were in charge of
Grocery shopping,
dishes,
helping them with the medicine.
but they had a free place to stay. They had to earn the stay.
It's a
But
worth-
then also it allowed, I feel so many college students, they're in this bubble where the only people they know are in their age range.
Mhm.
And it exposed some of them. There are some really wonderful stories of these college kids who are like, this person, who's like 85 years old is like my best friend. Like we talk to each other every single night, and I've learned so much from her. And then the person has someone there that, I had a friend who lived in senior living. I mean, she was on the ground after a fall for like 4 hours, and so there's technologies to help the seniors, but, let's face it, it's the human connection that, the technology is to assist it, not replace it, except in the areas that it can't truly be automated. But look into that, assisted living with college students, and there are different programs out there that have been very successful with it.
I was just on a call at 2:00 with a guy who wants to give us 40 acres to build a campus outside of Seattle. And one of the things I was telling about was that exact program, because I saw one in Denmark where they actually had, it was actually a large building. It was a big house. And the seniors lived on the first floor and the college students lived upstairs, and they had a scholarship, which is why they lived there. And they were in charge of, keeping the house clean and driving the seniors everywhere. And they said that they learned so much. It was so edifying. And the seniors were stimulated because they had all this new conversation, and and that's actually one of the things about centenarians, is that having that constant sense of community and activity is what keeps them happy and active and alive, and their body going, and they're more mobile. And it's because they have people interacting with them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, that's so. One of the things we're doing as we go down this rabbit hole is having an LGBTQ senior house with youth beneath it. Now we have to be very clear that,
How to phrase
there's no
that.
sex in the home. That's all I'm saying. There are no sex in the homes. And if there is, it had better be consensual and whatever, teach their own. But yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic. I think it would be a very cool, because how else do you pass on your history? How do you pass on your knowledge? And I mean, my grandparents are fascinating. Sometimes. I love them so much. I really do. But still.
I like this idea where the younger ones were on one floor, and then you divide it by age groups, so they didn't necessarily have to live with each other, but they cohabitat, but not directly. But there's just very creative ways to make impact.
I love that idea. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait to get you to introduce you to Jessica. We've got friends in Denver right now that we can introduce you to. I think, isn't Nick out there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
Nick?
That whole
Nick
house.
in Denver?
Yeah, definitely get me in touch.
Yeah, Nick's out there, Bodie's there, the whole house, the whole community. So,
And actually, Angie, if you're interested, what we'd like to do is, if you would like to get us in touch with any of the nonprofits you work with in your area, if they have a housing mission, what we do is we show them, and we will help them find houses, and we will structure it. They can run their organization, but most nonprofits have no idea how to structure real estate transactions and how many benefits there are to them for having real estate as a nonprofit. So I would love to be of service to any of them, whether it doesn't matter if it's a youth home or if it's underage or if it's seniors, whatever it is.
Sure.
I would love to be a resource for you guys. And I know I'm speaking for the entire group here, and they're wonderful people, and we will help do this. We would love to.
Yeah. So we'll pick up from email and we'll take it from there.
Perfect. I mean, you got my phone number now. I've already said it once or twice. So you can go ahead and give me a call.
I didn't write it down. But okay.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is really wonderful.
Welcome to the investor party, Angie.
Very fun. Oh,
Talk to you soon. Thank you again.
Have a great
Mwah.
weekend, everyone. See ya.
Bye. Party on.